Double Game Week 25 is now set in stone, so in today's video we're going to be looking at my updated transfer targets for Double Game Week 25. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 12,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. So here is the Double Game Week 25 schedule, of course, now that Liverpool have progressed to the final of the Carabao Cup with that very convincing performance against Tottenham Hotspur. As you can see, that does now mean that Aston Villa double with Ipswich and Liverpool, a very, very good double, and Liverpool with an even better double game week of Wolves at home and Aston Villa away. So that's the kind of predicament we're now in, of course, a lot of us, and this video is going to be focusing on the Liverpool players that we potentially might want to buy, or the Aston Villa players as well. Of course, with some people potentially having zero Villa assets, I'm going to outline in today's videos which players I personally would be looking at. So let's go and dive into that. So here is my big table of players that I'm looking at. Of course, this isn't going to include every player. These are just including the ones that I'm potentially thinking about taking a look at. So let's first off start off with the Liverpool players. Of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold did miss this game. However, it is being reported that he should be available for the Everton game. So you are going to be able to see the Everton fixture, of course, and the FA Cup fixtures this weekend before we even get to Double Game Week 25. And I think if Trent is fit and available and you still do have a Liverpool slot available, I do really like him as an option. Liverpool are one of the best defences for XG conceded, so that's always going to be a good buy-in. As you can see, he's putting up pretty decent underlying data numbers as well. If we actually drop down, he's actually performing better than Morgan Rogers, who most people have assumed to have had a pretty decent season. But if you can get yourself a Trent Alexander-Arnold, I know he's a little bit more money, however, he's still getting those, clean sheet points as well. And as you can see from the predicted points on that list as well, some pretty decent valuations. We also have Van Dijk and Konate, but for me personally, both of these guys are a little bit more on the iffy side, and only if Trent, for me personally, is not available. Konate as well would massively outshine Virgil van Dijk. I know he scored tonight, but for me personally, he's not a player that I'm expecting to get goal involvements every single week, and I feel like Konate is going to just justify that cheaper price point. As you can see, he's actually doing better in terms of expected goal involvement per 90 as well. So for me, it's not really going to be worth even having a look at Virgil van Dijk, in my opinion. It probably only would be Trent or Konate, but I know I'm probably going to get asked questions about it, especially with him scoring tonight as well, so I thought I would clear that one up. And I've also excluded Luis Diaz as well. For me, he doesn't feel like he's one of the starting players within that Liverpool side. I imagine he will see some games, but I think Darwin as well could potentially interchange as well. Gakpo, on the other hand, seems like he is one of Slot's most trusted men, and that is why he's on this list as well. Of course, another goal for him tonight as well. 0.57 in goal involvement in terms of the Premier League as well. Already one goal involvement in terms of Double Game Week 24 as well. So pretty good. I like him as an option. I really, really do. I think he's a fantastic forward that you are getting in a pretty decent attacking side. And like I said, both of the games, I could see Liverpool potentially scoring quite a couple. They've just gone about their work this season. Very, very smart. Very, very good. But I feel like most people have already got the Liverpool assets covered off, so I don't want to spend too long talking about those. However, on the other side, it is Aston Villa. So let's talk through the potential players you could go for here. So I've outlined first two defenders that I probably would be looking at. Ezri Konsa within kind of the cheaper bracket. I know they've just signed Diassi as well at 4.2 million, but I probably want to see him play before I put him straight into the side. So Konsa, for me, he is one of Emery's first choice players. So if you're looking for a pretty decent nailed player that's going to see 90 minutes but across both of the games within the double game week, he's a very, very easy pickup to go and get, of course. However, if I was to potentially have a little bit of a gamble within the back line, I probably would maybe take a little bit of a punt on Luca Digne. As you can see, 0.9 expected goal involvement better per 90 as well. More predicted points as well across the next three fixtures, and also more goal involvements for this season. He can also take free kicks and corners as well, and I think that is just one of the main appeals of potentially going for him. However, there is always that risk of rotation or early substitutions, but for me, I think if I had that 0.2 million spare, I'd rather take the gamble on Digne, try and be a little bit of a gambler and get some attacking returns out of my defenders. In terms of the midfielders, we'll come back to Watkins in a second. In terms of the midfielders, Aston Villa have gone on a little bit of a free-for-all in terms of the transfer market. Of course, they bought in Daniel Marlin, Asensio. They already had Ramsey as well still at the club. They've got Morgan Rogers, who you can see here, has had a pretty decent season. And they've also brought in Marcus Rashford on loan. So there's a hell of a lot of players there competing for minimal slots within the side. Now, I do feel like Rogers probably is going to see decent minutes over the next two. He's been, you know, a very, very good player for Emery this season. I don't see any reason why he would all of a sudden be dropped from the squad. I know he had a pretty disappointing game week 24. However, if we just cast our minds back, he got himself a UCL hat-trick against Celtic as well. So I think he's still going to be pretty secured. Longer term, I do think he is a player that I'm going to potentially look to shift away from. I think once this double game week gets out of the way, probably I'm going to start to look to shift him off. Maybe looking at a Bournemouth player, a Kluivert, a Semenyo, an Otara, who we'll talk a little bit more about in today's video. That's probably going to be the more longer term plan for Rodgers. So it is a little bit of a doubt around him and his potential minutes, with of course them bringing in so many players, but I think he's still going to be a decent option for the double game week, especially if you already got him. He's a very, very easy hold for this week. Rashford and kind of the other players that have newly signed, I need to see them play some sort of minutes beforehand. Maybe that's the FA Cup this weekend. Maybe, I don't know. I need to see something from them, for me personally. Like I said, I don't think they're just going to get chucked straight into the squad and have a big impact. And they could. But right now, I think the safer bet is probably to go for Morgan Rogers over one of these new signings. We see it a lot in kind of the summer. I always recommend for people not to go and get new players. Don't be kind of see this new shiny toy that's obviously just signed for a new club, new opportunity. Kind of, I would say, give it a few weeks. I know this week's a little bit different, of course, with a double game week. It is so appetizing to go and get somebody like a Marcus Rashford, an Asensio, a Daniel Marlin. But I think for me, they've got a little bit more time to be embedded within that squad, unless, like I said, we do see something maybe at the weekend from them. However, for me right now, I probably would prefer to go for Rogers, over Marcus Rashford, in my opinion. Doesn't mean he's not a bad option. Just for me, I think the minutes aren't quite secure, and that's something I probably wouldn't be looking to go for. Maybe if you've got that third Villa slot up and you are looking for potentially a little bit of a gamble, which is the position I'm in. I've already got Konza and Rogers. Now, that third slot could be a gamble like somebody like a Marcus Rashford that could potentially go on and do well across this double game week. But for right now, if you've got none, I probably would play it safe, pick up one of the defenders or pick up Morgan Rogers, in my opinion. Watkins, of course, did go off with an injury. We're yet to kind of get an update from Emery regarding this, so hopefully it's nothing too serious, but he is a player I would really, really like to have in the squad. Of course, it is going to be difficult with his elevated price point at 8.9 million. I think a few people maybe will take that punt on Alexander Isak out with some difficult fixtures on the horizon coming up for Newcastle City in game week 25. Not the easiest fixture, but definitely one I could still see him scoring in. Nottingham Forest, again, not an easy fixture, but it's Alexander Isak. He could very easily get a goal out of that one. Then it's Liverpool as well. So it's a run of 3 very, very difficult games for them. Of course, he has to go to Anfield as well. So there could be that scope to, of course, attack the Ipswich game. Of course, as well, to attack that double game week as well. And it's not like, you know, he's never done anything against Liverpool. He got a Premier League hat-trick at Anfield in that famous win that they had over them a few years ago. So it's not like he's, you know, got a terrible record against Liverpool. There's definitely that record there. So maybe something to consider with him. Of course, the big point is going to be that fitness and whether or not he is going to be actually fit and available. But if he is, I definitely can see quite a few people swapping out Alexander Isak with the next few fixtures, looking a little bit difficult on paper, and maybe making that switch to Ollie Watkins as well. He's also got the highest predicted points on this list, so it could be a really, really decent asset to go for. Let me know which potential double game week players you are looking at for this week, and let's finally move on to the assistant manager chip and whether or not it is worth using a transfer on that one. Then we'll talk about some potential Bournemouth players as well that you might want to look in in with decent fixtures on the horizon for them. So this is including the predicted points for 24, 25 and 26. We can obviously exclude game week 24. That has already happened. Now we're looking at game week 25. Of course, the Fulham projections were still in here with them potentially having a double game week. That, of course, now is dead and buried. We know that. So it is just going to be Villa and Liverpool. And which way do you go with your chip? Maybe if you've got David Moyes, of course, you are going to be looking for another double game week manager. I think there is the shout to, of course, go for Aston Villa. They could get a really, really comfortable win against Ipswich and then, of course, look to potentially get a table bonus against Liverpool. I can't see it happening, but I've seen stranger things happen. Of course, it's a home fixture as well, back-to-back home fixtures for Aston Villa. So you do feel like they could get some very, very decent points out of Emery as your assistant manager with that one. However, I do think if you've got that Liverpool slot open, and maybe if Trent, of course, that injury is a little bit more longer term, I think the assistant manager chip could be a very, very useful tool. I could see Liverpool winning both games, to be honest, and I think, you know, they'll probably score a couple in the Wolves game, maybe keep a clean sheet in that one as well, and you'll probably pick up a decent bulk amount of points there as well. Of course, people that did activate the chip and went for slot are absolutely laughing in game week 25 with no real decision on the cards. But again, if you've gone for Moyes as your ass man, let me know which way you are swinging on that one, and let's move on to some Bournemouth players. Now, away from the double game week hype, of course, there is a team that is going to be on a lot of people's radars over the next few weeks, and that is going to be Bournemouth. They've got some absolutely terrific fixtures coming up, starting, of course, with their game week 25 fixture against Southampton. The good thing about Bournemouth as well is they are doing exceptionally well in the Premier League, not only in terms of their league position, but in terms of their underlying data as well. One of the best defences in terms of XG conceded, and one of the best attacks as well in terms of XG overall. And of course, they've got some really handy and nifty players that I think a lot of us are, of course, going to be looking to bring in this game week. We've already seen quite a few of these players already being in kind of the top transfers for this game week. So what I thought I'd do is just run through some of my favourite options ahead of this week and kind of give you my preferred favourites. So what we've got is their goal involvements, their expected goal involvement per 90, and then their predicted points per 90 as well. So let's start off with the two defensive picks. Now, there is quite a bit of price difference between these two, 0.5. That's very, very pricey in terms of the defenders. And obviously, Kirkes has got the more goal involvements this season. However, if I was to go and pick up one of the Bournemouth defenders right now, I do think I would rather have Huijsen. 2 goal involvements, yes, but the expected goal involvement is miles clear, and his predicted points are actually just that slightly little bit higher. And I don't think Kirkes, for me, is offering anything in terms of a data side that is outweighing what Huijsen is doing, for my personal opinion. So if I had to pick right now between the two, if I was looking for that cheap defender to go from Bournemouth, it would be Huijsen for me rather than Kirkes. Saying that though, Kirkes is one of those players that massively passes the eye test for me. You see it a lot with the positions that he's getting himself into. However, I was expecting his data to be a little bit higher considering how attacking he has been this season and his strong goal involvement for Bournemouth as well this campaign. But that's not the case. So I probably would maybe just opt for the cheaper option here. The goal involvement slightly better, and the predicted points as well. The big debate, however, does come with the cheap midfield options. Now, I feel the defender one, that's kind of a little bit of a 50-50. You could probably go either way, and you'll probably kind of get, I would say, maybe similar outcomes. I wouldn't really be expecting too much difference from either of those. However, the midfield bracket is a wide open field. Of course, you do have Kluivert, who for me personally is going to be my number one pick, purely down to the fact that he has penalties. He has the best expected goal involvement as well out of the lot. And you guys know how I feel about penalty takers. It's just something that I always look for in the game. It's one of those broken metrics where even if, you know, a game's not going a team's way, if a player managed to pull out a penalty, that's it. They're on for probably a 6 to an 8 pointer. Just like that in the quick of a flash, just through a penalty. The team might not even be playing well, and that is one of the main appeals that I just like about having penalty takers within my side. The other options, I think, also do have their merit, though. Semenyo is getting a lot of shots off. That's something he's done all season. However, as you can see, his expected goal involvement isn't that good compared to the other two players within this list and within this bracket. I like him, and the Fantasy Football Hub squad model, as you can see from the predicted points, also really likes him as a potential option. But like I said, for me personally, I don't think I would probably go for him. He does get a lot of shots off, gets a lot of volume off, and his data over the past 5 game weeks has been terrific. However, I would rather have that penalty taker, who for me personally has that little bit more of a clinical edge, rather than going for Semenyo. And then finally, it is going to be Otara. I really like him as a pick as well, purely down to the fact that he just plays as a forward, doesn't he? He's an out of position player coming in at 5 million. I've just noticed his price is incorrect on my table. He is actually a 5 million player, not a 7.6 million player, so little slap on the wrist from me for that one. But as you can see, decent goal involvement, decent underlying data as well to back that up, and with obviously the injuries that Bournemouth have sustained so far this season within the striking positions, I do think personally he could be one of the better options as well. So for me, I probably would rank them in terms of Clive at first, Otara second, and then Semenyo third. Let me know which way you would potentially go on that one. So there was my transfer targets. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team, get them in. And like I said, make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know the script by now. And good luck in double game week 25.